All right, we're ready. So here we go. Like I said, I've got a couple links and stuff already going here for you guys. So first off, yeah, this is per the AP News. Video game Electronic Arts to be bought by largest ever private equity valued at $55 billion. So, I'll read just a little bit. I don't have to read this entire thing because I already got some of it on screen. But yeah, if you don't know, EA essentially is the company behind stuff like all of those big sports games, major sports games that you can think of, Madden, and then they make soccer and stuff like that. They used to make NBA Live, and then they also own Battlefield, Sims, some Star Wars licenses, couple other things. But yeah, so it says here being acquired by an investor group including Saudi Arabia's Sovereign Wealth Fund and the largest private equity funded buyout in history. It says the investors also include firm by Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law, private equity. Silver Lake's partners valued the deal at $55 billion. So that's about all I'll need to read from there. But yeah, so here I actually have the three major partakers in this transaction. What do I feel like I'm super bright? Let me turn my brightness down. All right, so first off, we have here a company named Silver Lake. So Silver Lake is an American global private equity firm focused on tech. Silver Lake is quartered in Silicon Valley, New York, has offices in Hong Kong. Silver Lake is one that I don't feel like I actually know a ton about. I mean, I guess Silver Lake was founded in 1999. Venture capitalists. Anyways, I don't think I need to read all of this. So, yeah, that's one of our main people involved. We have Silver Lake, and then we also have here, or if you want to know, just in general what private equity is a stock in a private company that does, the reason why, this is mainly the reason why, in my opinion, this is bad for EA, but it's a private company that does not offer stock to the general public. Instead, it is offered specialized investment funds and limited partnerships, take an active role in managing and structures the company's casual usage. Essentially, if you want to know essentially why private equity is bad, is because of that first word in it, private. There's a lot of information involved in, or there's a lot of information not involved, I should say, and as to where money is coming from. That is the main reason why private equity is such a bad thing, is you have so many companies coming in because their stocks are not publicly traded. Most of the time, I would say private equity is probably used for money laundering and things that are probably illegal or foreign. So, again, that is probably the biggest problem with private equity, is that you don't know where the money's coming from. Therefore, if you don't know where the money's coming from, you don't know who's influencing decisions within the company, or even, I guess, just flat out making decisions in general can be a problem. So, again, I will say EA historically has, in my opinion, for a long time, hasn't been a great company already as it is. I mean, as someone who's a big NFL fan, big sports head, you would think, oh, ChazmaN probably plays a lot of Madden. I haven't bought in a Madden game since probably Madden 2013 or 2014, because I could kind of see it happening in live, that they were making decisions with that series that I already knew at that time were not going to be good for it. Mainly because I had noticed that the gameplay, audio's good by the way, thank you so much, Skylar. I had noticed that early on that they were not innovating and they weren't doing anything for the gameplay that made it really all that much better. And I had noticed that they were putting in my opinion, it was obvious, they were putting so much game development time into like the animations for opening card packs and the whole Madden booster packs and mystery boxes and all of that stuff. That was something that immediately I noticed, that I'm like, oh, this is where this is where this is going. And I mean, maybe it's been different. I mean, again, 2013, 2014 is what, going on 17, was that really 17 years, 16, 17 years ago? Goodness, I guess so. Well, that's disappointing. No, just a little under that, probably like 15. Yeah, about 15 years. No, why is my math so bad? Probably 13 to 14 years. But again, I could kind of see the painting on the wall there. I knew where things were going, and I don't know. As someone in the comments or anyone who's watching this, I would love to know, anyone who I would say modernly plays Madden, is Madden still that bad? I mean, based on reviews and what I hear from Angry Joe, it seems like it is, and that they're still not really majorly modernizing or revolutionizing any sort of aspect of the gameplay. But I don't know. I'm kind of glad I jumped off ship when I did. Honestly, I'm still playing NFL 2K5 to this day, so that shows you where I've been putting my time in. All right, so Silver Lake is one of the companies. If you want to know the other two major companies we have, Affinity Partners. This is the Jared Kushner aspect of the. It's like the triumvirate of companies that are involved in this sale. Affinity Partners is the other one. Is an American investment firm based in Miami, Florida. It was formed by Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, blah 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 blah, senior advisor. Kushner's firm received commitments more than $3 billion by end of 2021 to invest in American and Israeli companies that are expanding in India, Africa, and the Middle East and other parts of Asia. The largest investor by some margin is the Saudi government sovereign wealth fund, which we're about to talk about. The public investment fund, which is allocated $2 billion. So here you can see Wikipedia saying that very early on, this what is this company? It's this PIF, this PIF Public Investment Fund, and Kushner's company, Affinity Partners. You can see early on that a lot of relationships are being made here. And then, yeah, here we go. Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund is called the Public Investment Fund. It's a major global fund that invests government money in various sectors to diversify the Saudi economy, develop domestic projects, and generate profits under Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. All right, so yeah, I'm trying not to get too politically invested. Again, I kind of would like to focus more on the aspect of EA and exactly what that means for EA, but there have been a lot of conversations and things of the sort about whether things like Saudi Arabia should be things that we're dealing with in general. I think you could make an argument whether that... Hey, Odin is Salty's in chat. What's up, Odin? You can make an argument whether we should or should not be even dealing with that, Saudi Arabia, or... I mean, largely, again, this is just stuff that I hear. At this point, most people believe Saudi Arabia, or people involved with maybe the current administration or government over there, may or may not have had. I mean, I guess, is it proven? I see. I'm going to say allegedly, because I don't know any for sure. But a lot of people seem to say Saudi Arabia was responsible for 9/11. So it's like, I don't know for sure or not. So another reason, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because there is more kind of controversy with things in particular with Saudi Arabia. Oh, I totally forgot to bring it up. Let me look it up. There is another thing that's happening that literally is kind of in the news right now with Saudi Arabia, and that is there's a major again, it's just, this is super relevant because of things. So there is what is it? It's a Saudi comedy show. Let me see what it's called. I forgot what it's called. This is something I wish I would have remembered to pull up before starting. Is this a good place to be? Are you going to pull my image up? You're going to give me a good image? There we go. That's probably decent. All right, so here you go. So yeah, if you can see here on the right, actually I'll move me real quick. This is another thing that's kind of been causing controversy that has to do with Saudi Arabia. Is literally there was this big giant festival that's been announced, comedy festival for Saudi Arabia, called the Riyadh Comedy Festival. You can see it takes place in October, and you got all of these big celebrity-ish. I'm making this about Saudi Arabia. Just saying, all of these big comedy people are going over there. Main reason why it's a big deal is because I guess a lot of these people, it kind of got released that a lot of these people, in order to like do a show over there, they had to agree to all of these different stipulations saying you can't make a joke about this or this or this or this, which again, that is something that Saudi Arabia has been criticized of allegedly over the last a while is for like free speech violations or I guess in general, I guess slavery is another thing. A lot of people speculate that much of like not Abu Dhabi or Dubai, one of those places was largely built due to slave labor. So it's like, it's all a very tricky, slippery slope over there. But yeah, a lot of those comedians are being kind of lambasted because it's like, all you do is joke about free speech, yet you're going over here and you're going to do a comedy show for not it's not just that they were invited or that they're doing a show in Saudi Arabia. You know, nobody has a problem with that. The problem is that they're literally going over there because they're invited by the government, literally by the prince or king, whatever, and it literally is like, okay, and you have to follow these rules to play here. And it's like really, man. Like someone like Bill Burr or Dave Chappelle who nonstop. I love those guys, but like their entire like shows sometimes are about like free speech and standing up for good things and like not listening to the man and stuff. And it's like, what happened to all that stuff? And now you're just gonna take a boatload of money to go to Saudi Arabia and not make a joke and like have to make jokes for like 4 different subjects. I don't know. It's a lot of hypocrisy that a lot of people are kind of ripping on them for. And that's kind of largely the worry with the EA purchase, is because something like a country like Saudi Arabia is so heavily involved. Free speech and things you can talk about and things you can touch on. That is largely a thing that people are worried that now EA is going to be. They're going to have. A very watchful eye basically over what they're talking about or what they can cover in video games. And it's like, I can understand that, So with all of that said, so we have our major players, Affinity Partners, Silver Lake, and PIF, yeah. So those are the 3 companies. Now, the main reason why I think this could be very bad for EA, which is something a lot of people have been talking about, is how the transaction is occurring. Essentially, I guess this is a way that of major companies buying things out. This is something that only like recently has been steadily picking up steam and becoming a thing. Is it's through something called a leveraged buyout. Scott Odin the Salty said, I heard a story Gabriel Iglesias told about how he performed in Saudi Arabia, and he talked about how he went outside the cities to do his show because it wasn't normally accepted in the main. He went outside the cities, wasn't normally because he wasn't normally accepted in main areas. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know. I've never actually been to Saudi Arabia, but from what I understand, a lot of people are just kind of selling out because Saudi Arabia is paying people crazy amounts of money to just either go live there or to perform there. And again, there's nothing wrong with taking money to go perform or to live somewhere. The problem is if you are somebody who cares about things like free speech or democratic norms, then going over someplace that's telling you, we're going to pay you $10-20 million to come over and do something, all we ask is that you just don't ever talk about 10 things. You know what I mean? It's like, come on. Like, I don't know. Especially like, at the time, comedy wasn't really accepted thing, so he had to go out in the middle of nowhere where a bunch of people saw him perform, said Odin. So I'm not quite sure what you mean, Odin. He talked about how he went outside the cities because he wasn't normally accepted in Maine. Oh, I see. He also met the prince, yeah. And I guess it would be more understandable if you're a comedian that like doesn't straight up just talk about like free speech and all that kind of stuff. Like I don't think that's something that Gabriel Iglesias really talks about in his shows. So I'm less like I'm less I gotta say mad. I'm more mad at somebody like Bill Burr, who somebody has like built him up to be like this free speech advocate or someone that stands for good values and like puts speaks strength to power or whatever, and is willing to talk crap about the man and stuff. So it's a little hypocritical to like, oh, I'm all for this, and this, but yet I'm gonna go perform and willing to take money to a government that's like, I don't know. I'm probably talking in circles, but people are getting paid very well right now to sell out. Again, I wouldn't consider it selling out if there weren't stipulations for you to go somewhere. Like if they go and perform anywhere else, is there like a stipulation? Like if they go to like, I don't know, I randomly Sweden or something, I guarantee you Sweden is not saying, hey, you can't. Sweden is not like taking in Metallica to play a show and then is saying, well, you can't play, I don't know, what's a military song? You can't play the song One because it has to do with a war or something. And it's like, no, dude, Metallica's not doing that. It must have been a lot for money for Bill Burr to break his values like that. Yeah, from what I understand, they're paying, I think, oh, that would have been a good, here, I'll pull it up. Another person that actually talked about it was Shane Gillis. So I'll pull it up, you guys, for Shane Gillis talking about, because he actually got an offer. Okay.
I should have taken.
All right, so here you guys. So this is somebody who actually got an offer, so he can tell you more about it than maybe I. How loud is this going to be?
I should have taken I got to take the Saudi Arabia deal. I should have taken it. I'm washed.
So I do get the fact that they perpetrated 9/11.
I'm not doing it.
That is good. I admire that.
Then they doubled the bag, and I was like,
They doubled the bag, the princes?
it was a significant bag.
What?
But I'd already said no. I took a principled stand.
Yeah, against Saudi Arabia.
It wasn't even that. I didn't even think
I
about it.
thought we were allies with
I didn't
Saudi
even really
Arabia.
think. Yeah, we are. We give them a ton of.
So why the hell they do 9/11 to us?
Wasn't Osama bin Laden just from Saudi Arabia?
Every single hijacker, basically.
Yeah.
is Saudi.
Yeah, you don't 9/11 your friends, bro.
Don't 9/11 your friends.
You don't. That's up.
And go over and go, hey guys, you guys want to talk about? I was in 7th grade when you guys did that. It was nuts. I should have taken the.
But yeah, that's one person kind of talking about it, and there was another person. I think Tim Dillon. Tim Dillon had also talked about how he had an offer. His is actually pretty funny. Let's look at Tim Dillon talking about that. Oh man, I've made this into a thing just talking about Saudi Arabia. All right, I'll cut it there. But yeah, I guess this is kind of more just we're talking about where things could possibly go with EA, and again, not saying that EA has been on the right track in terms of a proper business model or proper business management in forever. I don't know if I mentioned it, but to me, the only good thing they've made over the years has been the Jedi Survivor series. But anyways, I keep branching off. So I had mentioned it before, but the big thing that we're gonna watch and learn about, I think it would be kind of hard to have someone like Shane Gillis to joke with restrictions, because he talks about all sorts of stuff in terms of politics and history. Oh no! I agree with you. I don't think Shane is like probably the best person to lean on in terms of, at least for me, for my values and stuff. But I was just more looking at somebody who, I was more trying to just show that like these offers are a thing. That you were talking about how Bill Burr must have gotten paid a lot to go, where Shane Gillis there just said that he had said no, and then when he said no, they doubled the amount of money to give him. So I guarantee you they probably offered these guys like $5 million or or something, and then when somebody like Bill Burr says no, I'm not comfortable with that, it's like, oh yeah, well how's 10 million? And that's probably how they get like a Dave Chappelle or Bill Burr or somebody to join up for something like that. All right, enough of that. So what the main thing I want to talk about here with the EA buyout, and what I think is probably the most interesting aspect, is how the transaction occurred. It was through something called a leveraged buyout, which I will be completely honest, I don't know much about. So that's what we're going to do here, is we're going to watch somebody's video, and I'm going to try and obviously add some commentary onto their video. But yeah, I kind of want to see someone explain it a little bit. So we'll put it. So here's a video of someone explaining what a leveraged buyout is, which I'm very curious about. So shout out, this channel is King Academy. So thank you so much, King Academy. They're going to explain what a leveraged buyout is to me, because I'm a dumb head. Here we go.
Hey guys, Kieran King here. Today we are talking about leveraged buyouts, or LBOs, a mechanism for essentially buying a company used by mainly private equity firms. Now, you may have heard of leveraged buyouts or LBOs before in the press, and probably not in the most positive light, and I'm going to talk to you about why a bit later on. But first, let's dive into the concepts and learn a little bit about it. In short, an LBO leverages the acquisition company's assets to obtain debt finance to buy the company, as opposed to buying it with full equity. Now, if that means gibberish to you, then let's look at an example. John has a company, XYZ company, that he has run successfully for 30 years. The company is quite stable and does about 15 million in pre-tax revenue every year. After tax, which is say a third of his revenue, so minus 5 million of tax, his net revenue is 10 million a year. Now, this company has other assets like factories and machineries too, crucial things needed to make the business tick. John takes his salary every month and pays himself a nice dividend when he can. However, he is now reaching retirement, he's worked hard all his life, and he wants to sell his business and effectively cash out for a lump sum so he can enjoy the fruits of his hard work. A private equity firm approaches John and makes an offer to buy the company for £100 million. Now, John is quite happy with this deal, as it's basically 10 times his annual net revenue. And these guys, John and the PE firm, they sit down to talk. Now, the PE firm could just give John £100 million worth of cash for the company. And if the business is making £10 million a year, that's essentially a 10% yield for the PE firm. However, that is a big chunk of cash for the PE firm to give out in one go, so instead they go down the route of an LBO. The PE firm puts down £10 million of its own money in exchange for equity in the company, which is 10%. It then goes to a bank to borrow the rest, which is £90 million. Now, the bank is not just going to give the PE firm £90 million unless that money is secured against something. And that something is the assets of XYZ company. This means that if the PE firm defaults on its payments to the bank can come in and acquire the assets. The bank will also, of course, charge an interest rate of, say, 10% a year. This means that repayments to the bank each year are 10% of 90 million, which is 9 million.
Okay, so you want me to kind of explain what's happening here? Now that I'm honestly learning about this real time as well. I kind of understand what's happening here, though. Hey, Veronica Roche just joined. What's with the math lesson? All right, real quick. I'll sum up essentially where we're at. We essentially started talking about EA has recently been bought out by a company between Jared Kushner's affinity firm, Saudi Arabia, and then was it Silver Lakes. Now, this major acquisition from EA and them was for, oh gosh, what was the number for? It was like 500 billion or something like that. What was it? I don't even remember. Yeah, what was the deal even for? 55 billion. Not nowhere near 500. So $55 billion EA Games is being bought out for. Where's that video I was just watching? Right here. So the main reason why is, one, you know, I wouldn't say being bought out by Saudi Arabia is probably the best thing for any democratically operated company, but I think more what's kind of, in my opinion, what doesn't seem like it's very good is how the transaction is occurring. How these three major companies all group themselves up to purchase this one company in EA is through something called a leveraged buyout. And that's the whole point of us watching this video, is I'm trying to figure out what a leveraged buyout is, because it's not something I am accustomed to. So this guy explained it really well. I'll try my best to make it sound even easier. So, he is saying that this person, John, it's just a representation. This person, John, owns a company, this XYZ company, and they own their assets. So they have the XYZ company and then all of the XYZ company's assets. The company generates $15 million a year, but gets taxed $5 million a year. Therefore, their net profits for the year are $10 million. So therefore, per year, XYZ company is worth approximately $10 million. Right, so we know per year, XYZ is worth $10 million. That is how big the company is. Based on that you know the net profit of this company, you know approximately how much the company is worth. So someone who's coming in to buy it, which would be this firm here, technically the conglomerate of the three companies, Affinity, Silver Lake, and all the PIF, is that what it was, publicly investment, whatever, the Saudi Arabian company. So those three are represented by PE firm. And then, of course, the bank there where they get their money from, because that's how you're going to pay for the transaction. So, typically, what this company would do is they would flat out, like you said, to buy the company because they know it's worth 10 million or whatever, rather than just paying a flat rate of 100 million or whatever to buy the company. They're doing something called a leveraged buyout with the bank and with XYZ. So what happens here is the firm, the company buying it, would only give them 10 million because they know per year this company is worth $10 million. So 10% of whatever they're going to, or whatever the company, whatever the payment is supposed to be. So they're going to pay John and whatever this company is, which would be EA. So this is EA. This is the conglomerate of companies right here with Jared Kushner in Saudi Arabia. So they're going to pay EA, or whoever owns EA or whatever, 10% of whatever it is. So it probably would be, 10% of 55 billion. Gosh, my math is terrible. What would that be? Probably like 5 billion or something immediately. So, gosh, I'm like the worst at math. Let me play the music. It'll make me sound smarter. So yeah, they're going to pay them 10% of whatever it is the company's worth.
Yeah.
And then the bank is going to pay, over a period of time, is going to pay this 90 other percent of however much the company's worth. And then that's all going to eventually lead up to this 100 or not 100, to whatever EA is worth. So whatever EA is worth is eventually going to reach this number. They're only initially going to get 10% for the deal. Bank slowly over time is going to pay the rest of this full amount. Now, I'm sure he's going to explain it, but maybe I'll explain it myself. The main reason why this is bad, in my opinion, is because he actually says it right here, but see how it's the assets of XYZ or X. I'm glad I'm getting to learn more about this because every Instagram comment talking about this says it's a random edgy stuff. Oh, yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think when I look in the comments, most people are just talking about woke stuff, and I'm like, to me, woke is such an analogous term. It's like, I don't know what that means. Nobody knows what that means. I think people are just throwing that term onto something they don't like. It's like, oh, I don't like this. That's woke. It's like, can you explain a little bit? Plays the track where you sued from Five Nights at Freddy's 6? But, so, essentially, why this is bad is essentially for only 10% of the value, or whatever percentage. I guess we don't really know what percentage. I don't know the specifics of the leverage buyout with EA. But whatever this smallish percentage is right here, this essentially is going to cover the transaction for EA. And why this is bad is because is because essentially the entire amount isn't covered, because it isn't just we step in and we buy this amount of this company. This transaction essentially means that because the bank is fronting this 90 million, or this other large percentage, 90%, this means that this company, which is going to be EA, is already in debt to the bank for 90% of the value. You get what I'm saying? So the main reason why this is bad is because this means over this period of time, for this entire transaction to go through, the company here that buys EA games, I forgot to mention, this blue here, see how this says secured? And it says this is blue, this secured is blue, the assets of the company. Because this assets are secured by PE firm, that means that day one, when they give this 10%, slowly over time, because EA has to essentially pay off this transaction, EA, or the company that owns EA, can slowly begin to sell assets of EA in order to pay for that, or the bank, I guess, could technically sell the assets in order to slowly pay for that acquisition. So that's why this is such a bad transaction, in my opinion, is because EA already is in debt with this transaction. Because it's not a flat equity buyout where it's like, and he also mentioned that the bank, technically, he shows over here, there's a 10% penalty because, bank takes interest on top of any buyout or anything. So in my opinion, it's bad because these assets slowly over time, because EA they have to generate profit to slowly pay off that transaction. So it's bad because, one, there's going to be far more pressure on top of EA to produce, which EA already is like one of the most people already consider them an extremely greedy, bad business practice company. So it's like, so EA's probably going to lean even more into microtransactions, probably lean even more into probably cutting at certain positions, cutting maybe. And that's another thing, is like technically an asset, a part of EA, would be IPs. So like this company, or EA, slowly over time, because they're going to be upfronting to pay the bank for that, however much that gets fronted. I mean, they could start selling off IPs because they have to pay it off. So it's like, I mean, I guess probably the one thing they could get the most money for selling would probably be the Star Wars license. Which I will say, this whole thing that's happening here with this transaction is not a new thing. There was a company called Embracer Group. I think we've talked about them on the channel at some point, me and my buddy Phoenix. But Embracer Group went through this entire same thing, and guess what Embracer Group started doing because they owed so much money? Is they had to start selling off IPs, which would be an asset. So that's why this is such a big problem, is that EA immediately day one after this transaction has a bunch of expectations, and probably is going to have a bunch of dang, I hope they don't mess with my skate game I like playing, says Odin. I no guarantees. I mean, that could be something. I mean, again, and all an IP is an asset to a company. So I don't know. We'll keep watching the video. I'm sure he'll do a much better job of explaining. But essentially, that's where I see the problem coming in as, is these companies that are buying something like EA, they care about the profit. They don't really care about the people or the development studios within it. They care about what's generating profit. So, I mean, not saying EA doesn't, before this EA didn't, but like, it can be a problem if something like let's say something like Battlefield, which has already been under a lot of scrutiny the last couple of years. Let's say this new Battlefield bombs that comes out in a couple of weeks. What's going to happen to something like Battlefield? It's very, very tricky. So let's continue listening here.
9 million. So hang on, you might be thinking, now the PE firm has to pay £9 million a year of interest on the borrowed money. Why would they do that? And that's a really good question, but this is where the whole magic happens. Now remember, the PE firm has only put down £10 million of its own money, and company XYZ does around 15 million in turnover a year. Now remember, £9 million a year goes back to paying the bank plus interest, leaving us with £6 million. Of that, let's say 1/3 again goes to the taxman, leaving us with a post-tax revenue of the business of £4 million. Now £4 million a year, based off a £10 million investment, because that's how much they put down originally, they didn't put down all of it, is now giving a yield of 40% a year, which is much better than the 10% scenario where the PE firm had put down 100% cash. And over time, as the debt position of the company decreases due to the repayments back to the bank, the PE firm's equity position of the business increases. And before long, it owned 100% of XYZ company anyways. So do you see how this is so much more beneficial to the PE firm? They have put less money down, but they're getting a better rate of return. Okay, so why do these sort of deals get bad press? Simply put, it's because the debt is secured against the assets of the acquired company. If the PE firm can't keep up its high interest repayments, the knock-on effect on the acquired company could result in layoffs, shutting down of departments, unemployment, and so on. In many cases, healthy companies that would have worked absolutely fine in the past and have worked for many years have suffered due to being on this end of the transaction. So looking at the same example, the business one year may only do £10 million in top line turnover as opposed to £15 million. Remember, £9 million is repaid to the bank, the lender, and is only left then with £1 million, of which tax needs to be paid, and suddenly the net income of the business could be around £700,000 as opposed to the pre-leveraged buyout income of what would be around £6 million in this scenario. And with £700,000, the business might not be able to reinvest that money. It might not be able to do the things it wants to do with the business to help it grow. And it's sort of like a downward spiral, which eventually leads to the stuff we spoke about before, like unemployment, shutting down of factories, assets being sold off, etc., just to make ends meet. Basically a less than ideal situation. So there you have it, a very simplified explanation of leveraged buyouts. There is a lot more detail we can go into, and I'll be looking at doing some more videos on.
So if you guys didn't catch that, he essentially was talking about this is an awful deal for the company. It's an awful deal for the company here being bought out. It's a great deal for the PE firm because they're only putting up 10% of whatever the value is, and then the bank is receiving 10% interest of whatever the deal is from the company. So all of the pressure is put on EA to pay an additional 10% to whatever the transaction is. And this company, they only put in this much money. They only have to put in that much. And then slowly over time, their equity in the company goes up from 10% over time. So this company, all it does is win. Gaming might be a little cooked for a while. Why would anyone do that? Why would anyone do what? I mean, for the people, the people on top of EA don't have anything to worry about. Andrew, I almost called him Andrew Ryan. That'd probably be a pretty good name. And it's people like Andrew Wilson or other people, they don't care because they're receiving probably a large amount of whatever this 10% is. So they don't care. But definitely, to me, it sounds as though this type of transaction is a net negative for EA. Because look, I mean, he was showing you how bad this is. So revenue, interest, look how much interest is paid. And then look how much money. So imagine you revenue $10 million a year. I'm not even looking at the numbers, I'm just saying. But look at $700K as your net profit as a company for making $10 million due to this transaction. That is not good if you're like a major company. Now granted, this is probably small scale. Imagine this probably on a much bigger scale, but I don't see how this is anything good for EA. And I'm not even, again, we're not even looking at like the actual principles and ethics of the companies themselves. I'm just looking at the leveraged buyout aspect, which is something I'm glad I'm looked into because this is something I knew absolutely nothing about. But all of this on screen spells bad. Now, what it probably means is what Odin Assaulty was saying about feeling bad about Skate. I would most definitely say what's probably going to happen is a lot of those smaller IPs, unfortunately, Odin, I think eventually you're going to see those assets that are secured are probably eventually going to get sold off. Unfortunately, because I think what's probably going to happen is they're only going to want to keep the PE firm is probably only going to want to keep the big hitters. stuff probably like they're probably hoping this next Battlefield does really well, and maybe that how well this next Battlefield does determines whether they're going to get kept or not. But I would anticipate probably they'll probably only keep stuff like Star Wars and Battlefield and maybe Sims, probably the biggest stuff. But smaller stuff, probably like Skate, that's probably gonna get gone. They own the Lord of the Rings license, which like I don't even. When's the last Lord of the Rings game EA even made for them? But let's see. Also, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate being $30 a month now has been pretty crazy to see. Apparently, so many people canceled the subscription that the site crashed, as Odin Salty. I saw something about that. I honestly was going to talk about that, but I'm not particularly crazy interested in that. Maybe we could watch a video or two on that. How long have I been going? 47 minutes on EA, goodness. I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like a loan shark in disguise. Well, it's not really in disguise, though. I mean, I can see how it could feel very loan sharky, because there are loan. This is a loan. This is a big time loan, essentially given to the PE firm. Or you know what? It's not even to the PE firm. The loan is to, no, it is to the PE firm. I don't know. This whole thing, 30 G's. Yeah, essentially they increased monthly the Game Pass Ultimate up to like 30. It's up $10 more a month. Ow. Oof. Tailbone's already feeling it. Alright. Is there anything else I care to say about this? Essentially, in my opinion, to me, this doesn't really seem all that great. Real quick, let me just look at the companies that are involved within EA. EA Games IPs right now. So I want to take a quick peek and just see what they might... I guarantee you a lot of these are going to get sold off. Just give me their IPs. Google. Electronic Arts. Give me IPs. I looked this up the other day. EA Games IP. Alright, here we go. So, Game Pass Ultimate was 20 before they brought it up to 30. That's a 50%. That's not 50%, but that would be, what, a 33% increase, I think. Right? Because that would be... I think that's like a 33% increase, but that's still pretty cool. Who cares? That's still freaking high for... Xbox is in trouble, man. I'm very glad I got my Xbox, whatever. I think the price of the normal Xbox went up like $100 as well. And then the price of the new ROG Ally, that's up. That's like $10,000. That's like a $1,000 console now. It's crazy. Xbox is they must be really hemorrhaging for money. So so let's look at these IPs that are involved with EA. So let's see, stuff like, there's stuff here that's pretty dormant. I mean, I guess technically the BioWare stuff, Mass Effect and Dragon Age. I think that stuff's gonna get sold off. I can imagine. I don't think Dragon Age did. I'm curious, did the newest Dragon Age sell well? Did the new Dragon Age sell well? Let's see. No, the latest Dragon Age game, Veilguard, did not sell well, as it significantly missed its sales targets. The game publisher EA expected 3 million players with the first 2 months, but it only reached 1.5. It only got half of its expected viewership. Okay, so didn't sell well. Sad to see Xbox being cooked right now, because they were doing pretty good just the beginning of this year with the games they had on there. Xbox was doing so well up until this year. And then, well, I don't want to say so well, but they were doing pretty well up until last year. And then they just started doing a bunch of Stupid things. I'm glad I bought my Series S before all the price increases. Yes, that was definitely a smart move. A lot of people hated the new Dragon Age. I liked Inquisition. But I haven't played the new one. I'm not interested. It didn't look very good to me. All right, so something like Dragon Age and Mass Effect, I would anticipate those are gone. Sims is such an interesting. Does Sims sell well? I don't even know. Does the Sims series sell well? I don't even. Okay, so Sims does really well, it says. Okay, so Sims is probably something they'll keep. I would anticipate Sims, all of the sports stuff. Sims, sports, and probably Battlefield and Apex. That's probably stuff that's going to get kept. I would think anything else other than like that, maybe Need for Speed. Man, I would think the only stuff, and a lot of complaints I saw were about one specific character. I think it only makes profits on packages and extensions. Ah, I see. Well, but yeah, I don't know. That's all I got to say about EA. Again, I'm not like terribly enthusiastic about anything that's kind of going on there. What would you down in the comments? What do you guys think? Are you guys hopeful for EA, or do you guys think it's just going to continue being the same type of thing for EA? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to know what you guys think. Yeah. We got some Sims heads in the chat here. Alright, so